another episode of Adoption in Focus, where today we are joined by Miles, who you might know from season 2 of the UK Traitors. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't a little bit starstruck. Miles takes us through his family's journey to adoption, what being a family is like in a same-sex couple, the role of ethnicity, culture and identity in adoption, and what it's like parenting 2 children. So, Miles,
Hi.
first question, got to ask it.
Get it?
What was it like being on the Traitors?
Oh, God. I mean, it was amazing. Once in a life experience, really. And, when you apply for something like that, you never actually think, I'm going to get on the show. So when they call you to say, yeah, pack your bags, you're on your way, there's very much a second guessing of like, oh my gosh, this is the right thing I should be doing with my life. But one of the best experiences of my life. And, yeah, I urge everybody to have a go. Pushing yourself out the comfort zone is definitely what really helps you kind of evolve and be better and see yourself in a bit of a different lens. So no, it was good fun.
And I have to say, having known you for so long, I didn't know you would be so good at lying. I was shocked.
Who knew? Who knew? Who knew that? I think it's one of those things that you kind of think, would I be? How? I never. And also watching the show back, I get to see what my face reactions are like in real life.
Yeah.
And to be like, oh, that's the face I pull. But but knowing that I wear my heart on my sleeve and my emotions on my face, it's one of those things I think I have to really simmer down. And that's what I remember doing at the time. But like, don't react how you'd normally react. Just kind of smile when you're meant to smile and gasp when you're supposed to gasp. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it was a brilliant performance. And I do
Thank you.
think your sense of humour still shone through. It was brilliant.
Thank you. I'm waiting for my Oscar now for my acting.
Have you
My
not had
acting
it yet?
skills. No, that's it. Not called me. How rude. How rude. But no, I think it was one of those ones that you want to kind of still come across as genuine, even though you're put in a position where you have to lie,
Yeah.
So trying to get that and walk that fine line is really difficult. But hopefully I did it justice.
I think you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the best thing about it all for you?
I think the best thing is as I have got older, you get married, you obviously then adopt children, that become a family. Sometimes your identity changes. And I think it was really nice just to go miles away in a castle and play a game on a TV show and just have to be myself, and to kind of know that's still enough, which sounds ridiculous, but people still got along with me. I still had my sense of humor. I still was able to do all the things that these things are fed into and kind of filtered into, but also just be myself. And it was nice to kind of wear that hat for once, So that was fun. And obviously meeting the Fringe in person.
She just seems
She's an
glorious,
icon, isn't
honestly.
she?
Yeah, she really is. She really is.
So that's a cherry on top of the cake, really. But no, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun. One of the things that I look back and think, did I actually really do that? And then you think, yeah, you did. So a bit of an achievement.
You had the green cloak and everything. You fully
Green
did it.
green brings out my eyes. It's really my colour now. So I'm here for the cloak. I've got my own personal cloak. I walk around the house in it. But yeah, definitely. It's one of those things as well that at least I got to be a traitor.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has that privilege, and it was fun to be.
Well, you were wonderful and just a joy to watch.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thank you so much.
So I suppose getting on to the big topic, and if we can go right back to the beginning, it's quite memory lane.
Cast my mind back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you decide to adopt? What was that whole time like for you?
To be honest, so even before meeting my husband, I always wanted to have a surrogacy. Actually, I always wanted to have children. Always saw myself having a family, but did it through like the surrogacy route.
Yeah.
The reason being is because my mum is also adopted, and there's only me and her that are connected, like genetically together. So I kind of had this weird, like I was held on to that for some time. For I really need to kind of carry on our lineage, of a little. It's not even a family tree; it's more of a family twig. It's the two of us. But as time went by, and as I kind of realised what family really means, and me coming from an adoption background, I used to sit there thinking, I never double second guessed who my nan was. I never second guessed who my aunt was. You know, this is all my mum's adopted family. Um, and then when I met my significant other, I was very much down the kind of how will things look logistically? It's all
Mm-hmm.
fine and dandy writing it, in the skies and the clouds.
Yeah.
But how do we really feel about it? And I kind of thought it was more of an equal playing field to have a situation where we adopt and
Mm-hmm.
that adoption is on a nice even keel and we kind of go through the experience together and it kind of as we're outweighing surrogacy and adoption and how adoption feels and something that I don't know how it would feel.
Yeah.
I think adoption just felt really natural. We've done it in our family already. My mum's adopted, my dad's adopted
Yeah.
me, so yeah, it just seemed like a natural progression to do.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Very long answer for your
It
question, but
wasn't.
yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. So, how did you go about starting the process once you'd done your balancing out?
Yes. Yeah. So first we got married. Obviously found my husband, and this is not something that was a necessity, but we kind of had like a plan that we thought we needed to go through life. So wanted to get the marriage and wedding out of the way, and I remember kind of just inquiring what adoption was, what it even is, because there's a lot of preconceived ideas of what
There
adoption
are.
is and how
Yeah.
that looks, and I think I just needed those like questions kind of laying out for me.
Mm.
So I actually spoke to one of my friends who had actually adopted and had adopted through your agency actually, and I basically kind of said, this is the kind of process, blah blah blah. But it's one of those situations you've got so many questions you need to speak to them. So I called expecting to have a bit of a what do I need? Give me a checkbox of things I need to have.
Yeah.
And had a phone call. And I thought to myself, this phone call is going to be really poignant because depending on how I think and feel about this person on the end of the phone will determine how if I continue with
Yeah.
this, or not. And I had about 150 questions, and the person on the end of the phone was lovely. And I was like, and I got another question, and I got another question, and I got another question.
Oh,
Um,
and
and yeah, and not once did I feel rushed, not once did I feel like I wasn't listened to. But yeah, had loads of questions, and she assured me that this is normal. It's normal to have 1,001 questions, but urged me to come in for an open day, and just kind of sit down and speak to somebody. Now, they'll obviously just kind of throw this out there. This was all pre-COVID, so I know things have kind of evolved since then.
yeah, yeah.
But came in and had an open day once again to get that checklist of things. What's the things I need in life? They were like, no, you kind of, if you want to, you're more than ready to kind of go. And I was like,
Oh.
oh,
Oh.
oh, okay. I haven't got my Ferrari and my mansion that I think I need to have in my mind. But there's such weird preconceived ideas that I think I share with a lot of people
Yeah.
when I've spoken to other people's journeys. Are the things that you think you need to have, and then
Mhm.
actually when you've had it laid out, what you actually need as a requirement is so much smaller, such a smaller list than you think you need.
Yeah. I think people think you have to get everything in order and have a perfect lifestyle and a perfect home. And if you're in a
Yeah,
relationship, that's got to be perfect. And that's not life. It doesn't
no,
work
it's
like
not.
that.
I think one of the things I felt with adoption is because when people have children biologically, that in itself is a blessing.
Yeah, it is.
And then so you just kind of roll with the ball
Mm-hmm.
after that. I think because adoption so feels like such a choice and such an option,
Mm.
people put themselves that they need to be in this particular place to qualify for that option
Oh,
or to qualify for to be even thought of that for that decision. And it's not. It's not. The requirements aren't any different if you have a child biologically or through adoption. But I think the pressure. I mean, a lot of parents put themselves under pressure. That being a biological or adopted parents put themselves under a lot of pressure, and I think people do that before they've even got
yeah.
the adoption process in their mind. So yeah, I always urge people to go and speak to people, go and find out professionally what you think you need and what you require and what the steps are, and take it from there. That's what I did.
I think that's the perfect way. And like you said, it was could be quite a poignant moment because actually you could speak to five, six, seven different agencies, but you need to feel a connection to the one that you're talking to start the
Yes,
process, I think.
that's right. Yeah, you have to find the right one for you. And one of the luxuries of through adoption is you do get to find your kind of tribe of people that you feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
who's going to hold your hands through. And once you do, there will be one out there for you. But luckily for me, it was the first person I called, or the first people that I called, and then it's all I always say to people. It's always done in bite-sized chunks. I think people have this kind of mindset that, oh my god, we better start getting on the
Yeah.
treadmill now because this is a long jaunt. And actually, the process in my mind, when I think back to myself, it went so quick.
Mm-hmm.
It went so quickly because there's so much that you have to kind of prepare yourself and adjust yourself for
Yeah.
in a positive way that it actually gives yourself that nice. You think, oh, I've got 6 months, but 6 months goes so
Oh, it
quickly,
does.
so quickly. And we kind of thought to ourselves, oh my gosh, as when you look back, so
Yeah.
fast, so fast. But
Because life's carrying on as well, isn't it, in the background?
yeah, exactly that. And I think also, I think people think it's hard work, and it's not hard work. It's actually there's things you need to do, there's tasks you need to complete, and this, that, and the other. But I found the whole thing quite therapeutic. I found it really kind of kind of reflecting, and you get to find more out about your partner because you're answering these questions that you probably never thought of together. And yeah, so I found the kind of process quite endearing in a weird kind of way.
Oh, that's lovely. I think that's the
Yeah,
way to do it.
um, yeah, it was good. It was a nice thing to go through, but like I said, people think it's this like massive jaunt, and actually it goes quite quick.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
what was the whole assessment process like for you? Was it what you expected? Was it not?
Yeah, I think I expected someone to come around with a clipboard and kind of
The
look
check-in.
at my finances and look at this and look at that, and I think you feel like you're going to be really judged or questioned about your maybe potential past lifestyle choices or anything like that.
Hmm.
You're going to be probed, you're going to feel violated, all these things,
Yeah.
and actually I didn't feel any of those. I think it was more of I always tell people now, and obviously now I've done the process, it's always best to tell your social worker or the agency the information instead of them finding it out.
Yeah.
So I was very much like blah, 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 told him everything, I got done for speeding when I was 16. I got done for this, that, and the other. Say all these kind of crazy things. But actually, I think the questions that you kind of think you they have to answer make sense. So obviously, there's certain kind of spending habits or anything like that, they kind of bring that to your attention that it's not wrong. It
Hmm.
wasn't wrong, but obviously that when you have a child, they do
Yeah,
change,
they do.
and they things will adjust and just kind of get you better prepared. I think one of the things is also that I was very probably, if I'm being honest, have my back up
Hmm.
against is when you have a social worker, and I love my social worker. You know, shout out to Emma, she was lovely. Um, so I remember thinking to myself, "Who's this lady coming around asking me all these questions in my house?
Yeah.
How dare she?" Even though they weren't even that bad, but actually, she's the person that is going to be there and have your back when you're stumped with when someone asks you a question. When you go to panel and stuff like that, she's the one who's like, "Oh, remember Mars? We discussed this and we discussed that, and we'll highlight things before you kind of go to these milestones within your adoption process."
Yeah.
So it's really nice actually to kind of see that in full circle, to realise that I've divulged these deep and darkest secrets, and this person's been able to kind of flip it on its head and show me that actually some of the things I thought were massive negatives are really positive
Yeah.
and would really help the adoption process. So I always urge people to kind of lean into the feeling of being looked at and probed in, because it will actually save you in the long run, in the end journey, the end goal.
Yeah. I always try and look at it as we are being intrusive in a lot of ways. We are
Yeah,
probing because we have to, because of the children that we're placing for adoption. But also, the better that we know you, the better that we can support you for the rest of life,
exactly.
because we'll know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also it's the beginning of your relationship with your social worker, isn't it? So you've got to start somewhere, and you start building this relationship. And like I said, our social worker, when a process came to an end, we were really tearful and really sad that this person's like, "Okay, you're done now," and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't think I can do this without you because
Yeah.
you've been here throughout this whole journey," you
Yeah.
know but they do need to start somewhere. And obviously, she had to she had a job to do to make sure, obviously, things have been looked at. But at the same time, like you say, she so better prepared us for the milestones through that adoption process. but yeah, it's kind of the beginning of your relationship with your social worker. And like I said, I very much urge people to lean into it as opposed to feeling like it's a you thing. It's not a you thing. It's a bigger picture
Yeah,
thing. And they're looking at the bigger picture, and they help you see the bigger picture for you as well, which is nice.
brilliant. Thank you, Miles.
It's all right.
How did you find the whole family finding aspect of the process? Because I always think once you're approved, you can feel like the hard work's done now. We're approved, we've
Yeah.
done it. But then family finding is a whole new ball game.
Whole new ball game. Yeah, I think the thing is, so we, for our unique experience, we gone through panel. Yeah, you can be a
Yeah,
doctor, and you can adopt, and we had some. There was some children lined up, and we were just a little bit. I think one, we kind of you do so much hard work, you go through the adoption process, and then it was like, oh my gosh, you can start your family finding journey like pretty much straight away because we've got something in mind. Because obviously, that's the whole process, and we had to say no at that stage because it was just a little bit too overwhelming, and also the children kind of being presented to us wasn't a right fit. And I think when you do family finding, I mean, you have to be honest about everything you do anyway
yeah,
for the adoption process. But this is the time when you really can have to think about not about yourself. You've got these little profiles to read, you've got these cute photos and
yeah.
faces to look at, and can you look after that? Can you support that? Can you give whatever it is you're reading and seeing
Hmm.
the life it needs? And even if you can, is that the right time for you?
Yeah,
It might not be the right time. You've done the adoption process, and sometimes people might take a couple of weeks, a couple of months, kind of just
absolutely.
let the dust settle, or wait for a little bit. And I think I always say this: my children that I found or have or came across or however you want to call it were supposed to be my children. They were always supposed to be my children. So that feeling will always come. That will come, but at the same time, you have to kind of pace yourself and kind of get yourself ready and think about like I said, the family, what you see. And the other aspect of that is that I also recommend people not sitting there thinking, I want a child with hazel eyes, with blonde locks down to the knees, like because if you get too specific, then I think you're not opening yourself up to what your family could be.
Absolutely.
So I think kind of go in there with an open mind. But family heart finding is difficult but enjoyable. It's very much a bittersweet. It's an enjoyable part because you get to now look at what your family might be,
Mhm.
who's going to be part of your family. Is it going to be one? Is it going to be multiple children? What
Yeah,
then that's all really exciting. But at the same time, there's a lot of times when you might be told no. You might think, oh, I really didn't want to go for that child or children, and it might not be the right fit. That might be the right fit, and that might mean both sides.
hmm,
Like I think it's so important to realize that the child also has a social worker, and we have our social worker, and then they come together and they divulge all the facts that we've been going through, and they kind of discuss if that is then a good match. And that can be disheartening because there was a few times that we got told no because the process had probably gone further for other children and this that and the other. But you do have those days and months or weeks, months, depending on how long it can be, where you can kind of latch on
yeah.
to a child or a
Cool.
profile. And I just think kind of go in there with an open heart. But at the same time, like I said, when we found the profile for our child, it was supposed to be our
Yeah.
child. And so yeah, waiting and being open and being prepared is probably the best thing to be when you go into that process. But very much a bittersweet process. It can be difficult. It can be
I
difficult.
can't imagine. It's real, isn't it? You've been through training, you've
Yeah,
been through assessment, you've talked about this case study of Tom or
yeah,
Rosie or whatever, and then all of a
yeah, yeah,
sudden,
yeah,
oh, these real little faces looking at you on a
yeah,
screen or a piece of paper.
yeah. Because it becomes, like you say, it becomes really real because now you've got people's lives, people's stories, people's faces to kind of look at. And part of that is, that's a privilege to kind of have a window into that situation. But at the same time, you have to be really honest and open with yourself to be like, you might love that picture, love that profile, but what does that mean when they come behind your closed doors? Are you going to be able to support them throughout their lives?
Yeah.
And that part's really brutal. I mean, I remember when me and my husband did it. He'd read a profile and he'd be like, "Oh, absolutely fell in love with it," and I'd be like, "I need a picture." I need a picture, and then I'd see a picture. I don't want to read the profile. I fell in love with the profile just from the picture. And he'd be like, "You need to read it." So we came to loggerheads because also, I mean, obviously we did it as a couple. We had to make sure we were on the same
Of
page
course.
of, a profile at the same time. And that can be difficult. It can be difficult because obviously sometimes you feel like the person doesn't agree with you. Well, why don't you agree? Why do you not see what I'm seeing?
What's
Why do you
your
not
problem?
feel? Yeah, like, why don't you feel the same way as I feel? And I think it's one of those situations you kind of have to make sure you remember why you went into the process together. Went into the process because you wanted to start a family, you want to be a family together, and there will be that time when you both will be on agreement. I would hate to have thought that I would have pushed my partner into making a decision that they don't feel comfortable in,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And we're both quite stubborn, so it probably wouldn't have ever happened anyway. But at the same time, you have to live with these decisions that you're making. It's not about a snap decision right here now. You have to really think about it. Always sleep on it. You know, always kind of get a better perspective on it after a couple of days. Get more information if you think you need to get more information. If that information still doesn't sit right or doesn't feel right, then say no one's going to judge you for it. And I think that's why I think you feel you've done all this hard work to be an adopter. Why should you not just take the first child you see? And it's not about that. It's about what you can support, what you can have and include within your family. What does your family do? Do you hiking every day? That's great, but can the child or children you're looking at potentially
Right.
participate in your ways?
Yeah.
There's certain things that we have to change, there's certain things they have to kind of get on board with, but at the same time you want to kind of align together, and that once you get that harmoniously, it's lovely. It's absolutely bliss. My child naturally loves music, but I kind of like to say it's my doing. She loves Mariah Carey. That's because it's me,
Obviously, yeah.
But that's like obviously, But at the same time, she naturally loves music anyway. So it's just like that kind of alignment together is just absolutely lovely. So yeah, just don't be hard on yourselves, but be open.
Yeah. And you'll know when you know.
Yeah, you'll know when you know. And one of the times I talked about, oh my gosh, do you get those feelings straight away? And sometimes you don't.
No.
Sometimes you don't get those feelings. Sometimes those feelings will develop, but at the same time, you do have a moment where you kind of think, do you know what? I feel drawn. Might be drawn to when people say like, what does that feeling feel like? It can be feel differently for different people.
Yeah.
And certain profiles we were drawn to more. There's certain profiles I wanted to know more information about. There's some profiles that I was a bit like, oh my gosh, this is the child for me, And that is what happened with us when we saw our child's profile. I just stopped in my tracks. I was like, this is the child I want to kind of investigate more. So just that feeling when people go, you have that feeling, it feels differently for different people, but however that looks and how that feels for you, then that's your child, or that's your time to kind of act on that as
Oh, that's perfectly said, I think.
well.
So, not being specific, but can you tell me a little bit about your family? You've got a daughter who
Yeah,
loves
so
Mariah Carey, legend.
yeah, so you got two girls. We always wanted a sibling group. We ended up going for one child first, and then we ended up having a second as they came. So yeah, two girls, same but different in the sense that you've got one that wants to be everyone's best friend. You've got one that's a little bit more reserved. And it's really funny because actually now people have started to say, oh, one's so much more like you, Miles. A little bit more out there, a little bit more outspoken. Love the music, love love dancing, this, that, and the other. And then
Oh,
you've got the other child who's a little bit more reserved, a bit more like my husband. And I think that's naturally our
yeah,
personalities. Their personalities just so happen to be much like ours. But yeah, it's nice to kind of when as years have gone by, you hear how they talk and they talk how you talk and they
yeah,
laugh at the things that you laugh at, and it's very much that you kind of look at that nature nurture, how much is nature, how much is nurture, and so much of that is that they've just seen how we are and have very much been like, people go, people who don't know will go, oh my God, we can tell who's your daughter the one who's singing over there, spinning around, is that, and yeah, I'm like, well, how did you, how did you get that? But and that's lovely to feel, nice to hear, but it's also a lovely thing to feel because you're having a lovely impact on these children's lives. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, two girls. Obviously, we're a same-sex couple, so we've got two guys and two girls in our household. Don't get me wrong, trying to get ready in our house is a nightmare. So you're going to know a lot about yourself 2.5 hours at least to kind of get everybody ready and dressed, and there's hair products. I haven't got any hair, but there's hair products flying around and all this stuff. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
I wouldn't have it any other way now. So
It's chaos,
yeah,
but beautiful.
it's chaos. Yeah, it's been World Book Day and trying to get people ready for that, and with Pancake Day and this, that, and the other. There's always something going on. And what I secretly love is that I secretly love to complain the fact there's so much going on. It's like, oh gosh, there's this going on, there's this going on, there's this. I know, but another school party and this, that, and the other. But I love it. Deep down, I love it. And yeah, like I said, they're only little once. They're only little. They're not little for long. But at the same time, and hopefully we'll grow into lovely women. So
They will.
so yeah, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have children for adoption. But yeah, love my family as it is. So perfect.
How was the experience as a same-sex couple?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, well, doing it as a couple, first and foremost, it's nice to kind of have each other to lean on each other. Once again, I also have spoken to single adopters, and some of the pressures that we felt between the two of us, just being a couple to start off with, they didn't have, but at the same time, you do have that support. So I don't want people to think you have to be a couple.
No.
To do the process at all. But being a same-sex couple, it did make me feel very conscious about the dynamic and how our house would be. And, we kind of sat there thinking, oh, because you do have an element of making a choice of what child or children you go for, you can overthink that process. What I think I would love to have had is someone said, oh, we just found a child under a bush, it needs a home. Do you want to,
There you go.
well, do you want it? Well, fine, we'll take it. So I think we did have a moment where we kind of thought, are we doing a child an injustice by being a same-sex family? And these are the kind of conversations that you feel like you really need to kind of hash out as well, because and that's why I say the whole process is quite therapeutic, because essentially I feel it doesn't matter.
No.
But you need to, it's something that if you think it's an issue, it's definitely something to worthwhile talking to your social worker about, or your support network, about. But at the same time, I think I feel when there's so many other same-sex couples now that I've spoken to, that you look at them and we all complain about the same things, we all complain about the same issues and problems as our heterosexual couples do,
Yeah.
And to be honest, the difference is very minimal. And you get a lot of people having this, the heteronorms of certain things, of people being like, oh, who did your girl's hair? What toilets do you take them to? And this is, I think, people's way of trying to be curious and interested, And I like to educate, hence why I like to run my gums and say these long answers. But I think at the same time, it's nice for people. It's nice for people to be interested. But actually, now we have our children. There is no difference with the process. I think you will be asked some questions that you might not be able to answer. But I think as long as you've asked those questions and thought about what the potential answers could be, so a lot of the things people will be like, what are your children going to call you? Obviously you don't have mummy, daddy. What are they going to call you? And we've always been led by what our child or children would want to call us, within reason. Obviously, yeah,
Wait
I
till
answer
they're
to most things.
teenagers.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm on the fence about that one because I'm only myself to blame. But yeah, so I'm sitting there thinking, what will they call us? And it's naturally fallen that one of us is daddy, the other one's dada, and we completely were kind of going through the script of what the child wanted. When she was looking at me, she'd go, "Daddy," and then she'd go to my husband and go, "Dada." Right, okay, they're kind of
There we
the
go.
names that we've kind of we've kind of been assigned, and you had to make sure that I said yes when she said Dada, Daddy, and not say yes when she said Dada, and vice versa. But I didn't know that when went through the process. So one of those situations, when you get asked a question like that, it's like, I don't know, but we'll work it out between us. I'm not offended by most things, and to have a bit of sense of humour through it as well,
Yeah.
because there's some things you don't know. You don't know what is going to have happened. So if you've got a sense of humour about it, then the question's not so serious. So I obviously like to think I've got a bit of a sense of humour. So I think sometimes having that situation where it's okay not to know,
Hmm.
it's okay not to have all the answers. So when we went to panel, someone did ask us that, and I answered the exact same way I've just spoke to you now, and they're like, yeah, that's fine as long as you thought about it, as long as you're kind of open to it.
Hmm.
It might have been Papa, it might have been Daddy-O, it might have been anything else. We would have gone with it, and doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it's sometimes what I think is one of the best things I think about having a family is having a child nickname you,
Yeah.
and then that becoming your name, and you're called that name because they can't say their words right, or you're called that name because they can't
Yeah.
say the length of the word or whatever, and that is your name. Now that is one of the best gifts a child could ever give you. So I think it doesn't matter what they call you. It really doesn't matter. But I think going through a same-sex family experience, you can hang your hat on such a big issue about that actually it's so trivial, so not important.
Yeah.
But the process, we have the exact same process as everybody else. We don't cut any corners anywhere. We don't have to do anything longer because we are same sex family. This process is exactly the same, and our support network has been amazing throughout that as well. We've been very lucky in that sense. But also, our support network isn't just our family. And I think a lot of people feel because you come from an LGBTQ plus family or background, you might not have the same ties with a family that you feel like heteronormatives might
Hmm.
have. And that's okay. That is totally okay. We have bigger families elsewhere, and that sometimes is the best family you need. It takes a village, Lee. It takes a
Oh,
village to raise,
oh, I can
and
imagine.
sometimes your village might be a bit more colourful than others, but that is fine. That is totally fine. And yeah, I think it's actually a bit of a benefit sometimes to have our child or children exposed to the wonders of life. So it's a blessing.
Absolutely, and I know people do worry about support networks and it being family members and or not family members, but I feel like as you grow older, and obviously you're not aging at all, Miles. I'm not saying that about you, but as you grow older, you kind of
Yeah,
choose your family and the
for
people that you
sure.
surround yourself with anyway.
Yeah,
And that
for sure.
support comes in so many different shapes and sizes and ways.
Yeah, for sure. I think the people that you feel will be your number one support aren't always the support you need.
Yeah.
So sometimes your support can be another mother or father at school gates who tells you something that in passing that their child does that your child also does that you've been sitting there worried about,
Yeah.
and then you'd be like, oh my gosh, my child does that too. Now that is so support. That's probably sometimes the best support you can have. My mum, who brought me up in the 80s, with lead paint and weapons as toys. So I think it's sometimes as you feel like, oh, well, I need to have a mother, or I need to have a father, or I need to have grandparents or whatever to help. But actually, it can be the person at the local shop who tells you a story about their situation that they had when they had kids, this, that, and the other. So you're, like you say, you choose your own family. And like I said, as time goes by, it's not about quantity, but it's all about the quality of your social and your support network. And I think, we had our first child in COVID, so we couldn't see many people
Wow.
at all. A day out to us was Tesco's Extra,
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's go around the aisles again. Yeah, let's hopefully they'll have flour. And then having like our next door neighbours dropping stuff off round, dropping dinners round because they're worried that we weren't, we've been busy and whatnot. I mean, that's not family at all. I mean, they are part of our family now, but
Yeah.
they are, bloodline at all. But they are a massive support for us, and also as well, you end up being a support for others.
Mm.
And I think having those support network conversations has shown us that adopting a child and having a child biologically, the differences are very minimal.
Yeah.
Very minimal. They have the same issues. They have the same tantrums. They have the same, anything you can imagine a child will go through, regardless if they're adopted or not. Obviously, there is sometimes, depending on what your child has been through adoption, you might have more challenges. But sometimes I'm really conscious, or we've always been very conscious of the fact that the child's having a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket isn't because they're adopted. Your child, I'm telling you now, to all potential adopters, your child will be naughty in the doctor's waiting room.
Oh
In the
yeah.
doctor's waiting room, I don't know what it is. When everyone's being quiet and being really serious, your child will be the worst devil of their life. That's not because they're adopted. It's got nothing to do with adoption. That's just because they can smell the weakness and the fear of you in a quiet waiting room. And so we are very much advocates to be like, do you know what? It could be the fact they're adopted. Go and seek some, support and whatnot if you needs be. But actually, just let your child be children
Yeah,
as well.
there's
And
little people, isn't there, with a personality and a
yeah,
temperament and likes,
exactly that.
dislikes.
Yeah, yeah. Like we had tensions because they want to brush their own teeth.
Oh, mm,
Fine, brush your own teeth, and sometimes I feel that you can brush everything,
mm.
any negativity with a oh, it's because they're adopted paintbrush, and it's not about that. And sometimes things can be triggered, and sometimes things can be from a past. But at the same time, you giving them consistent routine and love is essentially what they need to kind of get over that situation.
And
So
it's just that
yeah,
curiosity, isn't it, of it? It could be related to adoption. It
yeah,
could not be. And just keeping that
yeah.
open stance, I think, is the best thing.
Exactly that. Yeah, I think you know your child or children better than anyone else, and I think you'll start to have an understanding where that might fall over what side of the fence. But also, if you don't, that's fine. Just like I say, you are open to the fact that they have a potential background. You've got little minds that are picking up information 24/7, but also it's not a negative situation. And the one thing I would always say as well is that when you've adopted, not only do you have a family of other adoptive support networks, depending on how you've gone through about it, you have your adoption agency to help you support you, and you'll also have your local authority. So that you've actually got an extra safety net of things to help you get through and navigate that situation, as opposed to just going it alone. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you're kind of into you're kind of what would you call it, initiated into the adoption family of other adopted
Yeah,
families,
you are.
so you kind of got that support network in
Don't
itself.
spoil it though and tell people what the initiation ceremony is.
No, I
Yeah.
won't. There's it only burns for a little bit.
I'm not sure if that'll make the edit, but we'll see.
That's okay. We'll try.
um, what would you say to someone, Miles, who was worried that aspects of their ethnicity or their culture might affect their adoption experience or even stop them from adopting?
Yeah, I think so. Reference to that kind of goes two different ways, because I think once again it goes down to how you see your
Mm,
family. If you are wanting to adopt a child because you want the child to look just like you and to kind of just slot back into your family photo, then I think you need to just kind of be open to what families look like.
mm,
I think also having a situation where you want to kind of create something that you feel like you're missing out on. So you feel like you're missing out of having a child naturally or anything like that, or missing out on trying to have a family in a particular way. Going for adoption isn't necessarily just the be all and end all for that feeling, and I think having relatability to your child is really, really important. But relatability isn't necessarily just down to culture and your ethnicity background. You want to be able to relate and support what your child might experience in life. And I think having the same or similar could help. But at the same time, it's not necessarily. Okay, let me put it into aspects. So when I grew up, I didn't have necessarily the nicest upbringing. I had, a lot of things to deal with as a child, growing up, this, that, and the other. And when it came to doing the adoption process, I was really worried to share that with my social
Yeah.
worker. And I was like, oh, my family, when I was a child, were such colourful situations and loads of things that went on. And I thought that might go against me. But actually, they were able to show me that the things I'd experienced as a child in my life made me more relatable to some of these children that are going to go through the adoption process, because we may have been through similar or the same situations, and that now makes me relatable to a lot of children that are going through the similar situations. So I think having your culture and your background and your ethnicity to match isn't always going to make you feel like you relate to your child any more than having a child outside your race, outside your culture. um, I think if you do have a child that is outside your race and outside your culture, then celebrate that too. Make sure it's not something that you've just forgotten about or hidden. If you have a child that has the same skin color as you, doesn't necessarily mean you have the same heritage.
No.
It doesn't mean you have the same, DNA and background. So, celebrate that, make it a thing. Make it, and it hasn't got to be gimmicky. It's just got to be something that you talk about and you are aware of and you can support. So yeah, like I say, having that look of a perfect family photo doesn't necessarily mean that you are. And so I think having the understanding of what you're taking on, and that's why you go for the family finding the right children for you that you can support,
Yeah.
is really important in that aspect, because that support doesn't just stop with necessarily disabilities or anything like that, or it can be across the board through culture, ethnicity, backgrounds, and whatnot. So yeah, once again, be open, be honest. I think, but I think it's something you'll surprise yourself that if you adopt a child outside your race or outside your culture, that you actually might relate to them a lot more than you think you will.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Did the adoption process make you think or feel any differently about ethnicity and adoption in any way?
I think we so me and my husband are different race and different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different upbringings, different schoolings. So already we are different.
Yeah.
Our households are completely different. Um, but we decided to get married and be together. So those differences. The reason why we work so good is because we are different.
Yeah.
I know the relationship that you have with your partner is different to the relationship you have with your child, but at the same time, our dynamic within our household is already different.
Hmm. hmm
And I love him for his differences. So when we talk about going through the process, we are already much aware or been shown that we are different for different reasons. But the reason why that also then works is that there's sometimes that he can support that child better than I can in this situation, or
Yeah.
because of his life experiences. There's a lot of times when I can relate to that child better because of my upbringing or experiences. So I think it does make you kind of put all your cards on the table
Yeah.
of what you
Yeah.
are, who you are, what makes your background up, what experiences you go to. A lot of them you might look different on the table, but actually you realise they're actually quite similar
hmm
for different reasons. So like I say, when I say going through the process is quite therapeutic, that in itself is quite a therapeutic thing, because you kind of see your partner in a different light. Um, and you hear about their experiences because they're telling a third person, not telling me,
Yeah.
telling a third person about that experience, and you hear things differently. So I think having that understanding about our culture and our backgrounds, um, and it also accepting that about each other, makes you then realise that you're more open than you think you already
Mm.
are about what child or children you can take on. You know.
How have people reacted to you and your partner becoming adoptive parents?
Um. So our family are static. We'd always all talked about that. That's what we wanted to do, and yeah, when we turn up to our friends' houses, they just love the fact that we're fathers, and they go, "Oh, we love your family," and this, that, and the other. And I think a lot of the time people think they and say that because we went for the adoption route, and a lot of the times people be like, "Oh, that's such a nice thing to do." It's like we didn't just do it because it was a nice thing to do. We did it because that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We didn't just do it. This isn't just a charity
Yeah.
move. This is not. it's nice. It is a nice thing to do,
Mhm.
but we didn't just do it because we're trying to be charitable. This is what we do because this is how we wanted to and saw our family being. So I think sometimes people who are trying to say the nicest possible compliments can feel a little bit double edged
Yeah.
sometimes, but they are also trying to navigate how to handle this situation too. And I think giving your family and friends a little bit of grace because they are trying to adapt and adjust to this adjustment too. Biologically, sometimes you'd always have a baby in a cot for 6 months before you have to really worry about adjustments. Where obviously adoption, sometimes you don't get that luxury. So everybody around you, your family and your friends, are trying to adjust to you being a family instantly with a child that might be talking, walking,
Yeah.
requesting
Causing
things.
chaos.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, calling your mum, calling your dad, like that. Sometimes people are like, "Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it's your child's calling you a parent name already straight away, or whenever
Yeah.
that happens." So, but our family were massively so supportive, overjoyed, and yeah, the thing is, you get asked the same questions that you do if you have a child naturally. When you gonna have another one? Like,
Whoa.
uh, whoa, yeah, slow down. Just I'm not just ready just yet. But yeah, you get asked the same questions, you get the same feelings, but at the same time, yeah, like I said, your family and friends will become your extra safety net, and become that situation. But yeah, it's this love and support is lovely. Your parents automatically become like the actual most, I don't know, naughty inducing people around your children. Like my parents were so strict with me, and literally my children could set the house on fire and be like, "Oh, look at them! Oh, look at them! Isn't aren't they just lovely?" I'm like, "Are
That's
you
so
joking?"
clever.
Oh yeah, look at them. They can strike a match themselves. Look at that. I'm like, no, like, how is that changed? But that's because my mum and my dad love being grandparents,
Mhm.
and they all you see your parents through a different light. You see your
Yeah.
friends through a different light. But yeah, like I said, it's been lovely. Outside of that network, we obviously have a lot of everyday people that you meet. The school our children go to in the nurseries been lovely and supportive. The parents you meet. One thing you always will find, especially being same sex, is that people will take a while to work out what's going on
Okay.
here.
What's the
Like,
sitch there?
what's the situation? And I think that's normal. We all do that. Even if it's a heterosexual family, you think to yourself, "Oh, who's going on here? Is this the?" Sometimes it could be the grandmother picking up, it could be the sister picking up, it could be anybody. So we're all trying to do that. So don't just feel like it's just you who's feeling that feeling. But yeah, and then you get like I said, the normal questions that people go, "Oh, did mummy do your hair?" No, my my child lives with two gay men, so if if she comes out with a Dutch plait, she comes out with a Dutch plait.
Yeah.
So because we've had years of practice. They go, "Oh, who dressed you today?"
Yeah.
So yeah, and they kind of cutting on quite early on that are, especially because we're same sex, that the girls that we have are adopted,
Yeah.
and then you get like people who are curious. But I think it's taken me a while to work out that curiosity is their way of trying to be supportive.
Yeah.
It's not them trying to question
Yeah.
what's going on. What's going on here. I think they want to know, and also we very much sometimes say, "Oh, I don't want to say that just yet," or "I don't want to answer that question," and that's totally fine. You are in control of how much you want to divulge or share about your child, because that's what they are. They are your child. They are your children, and don't feel obligated to make the other person feel comfortable by oversharing something you don't want to overshare. So yeah, when I go to the supermarket, they know who we are now. They know we're a family. Everyone's like, the same woman who wants to give my daughter the same sticker. And my daughter wants to go and see the woman because she wants to get a sticker. And but that's the thing. That's the whole norm. That is the normal. And when I say normal, what is normal? What is normal
Beats
for your
me.
family is not normal for another.
No.
So I think that word should be burnt
Yeah.
because nothing is normal.
It's not.
Nothing's normal with the child.
Oh no.
Nothing's normal with children. So
Don't.
nothing's normal in families. Your families aren't never normal.
They're not.
So yeah, don't expect the same. Don't expect your family to be normal because it won't be.
No.
It'll be special. It'll be special, but it won't be normal. And
I
I'd
like
rather it be
that.
special. I'd rather it be special than
That
normal.
should be the tagline for adoption. I
It
like
should,
that.
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
For sure.
you've. I think it was such a just. really insightful point that you raised about trying to sometimes reframe curiosity as a way of support. And I think
Yeah,
with that maybe comes a change in feelings that you would have, and a little
yeah.
bit of a movement. But I suppose to round it up, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about adoption?
I think it's one of those ones. So I always tell people you got to be honest, and that's not just being honest with the people, the questions that you're being asked by, the people you've been asked by. You need to be honest with yourself. You
Yeah.
need to be honest about the things you want to do, things you can want to divulge, things you share. You need to make sure that you're saying the things that are honestly and authentically what you think and feel. Go and get professional informed advice. It's great speaking to loads of doctors, but we've all had loads of different experiences.
Yeah.
And some of those, like pregnancy, you hear these stories, and some of them are absolutely scarring.
Yeah.
Some of them are completely, absolutely easy, normal. Go and speak to your agencies, go and speak to your local authorities, go and get your questions answered directly from the people who essentially will be the ones supporting you, you know? And then enjoy it. It's not a race, it's a marathon.
Mm.
I think there's very much a moment where you feel like, I've got to do this and I'm going to go. And I did it myself. I massively did it myself. Like, we're going to get this paperwork and we're going to do this and rush, 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 rush. And sometimes it does call that you need to act on things when you need to act on them. But at the same time, it isn't a race. It's definitely a marathon. It's an enjoyment time. There's parts where you won't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I found transitions very, very difficult. But that's my experience, you know, and that's how I felt. But at the same time, it is an enjoyable experience when you look back when you've got your child or your children. You look back and, you know, me and my husband go, oh my gosh, remember this? And oh my gosh, remember that? And, you know, oh my God, we had a child, you know, and then we had second lockdown. Oh my God, we thought, you know, this was going to be the world's worst nightmare. But we laugh back at it now and we look at the process itself and we think about the times we really enjoyed. We talk about the things that we felt were really difficult and hard.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have your child or your children, they are, you know, 1,000% worth it, you know? And so even when you're going through the process and you think it's really difficult, one, tell people that's the case. But also it's not life.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your forever. And then also one thing I do want to say is when you get through that adoption process and you have your child and your children, you are going to feel feelings that you feel like you feel guilty for feeling. You know, you might feel guilty for you haven't bonded with the child straight away. You might feel guilty that your partner has bonded with your child straight away. You might feel guilty that you bonded quickly with your child or children, your partner hasn't. I think there's going to be times when you feel like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And that question is about having children, not about adoption. People always ask themselves, "Oh my gosh, what have we done?
Yeah.
You know, where are we? Can we do this? Are we qualified? Can we this or any of that?" And these are all questions that people ask about having children, not about having adopted children. And so, don't feel guilty for thinking and feeling these things. Be honest. You know, when our social worker came round, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what have we done? What have we done?" And you know, she reassured us that that isn't a normal thing to feel, and if it's not a normal thing to feel, we can talk about it and we can discuss it, and you know, can support it and try and get that help. But I think there's a lot of pressure with the doctors to think because you've done this process, you've had this child, you should perfectly run off into the sunset and feel nothing but butterflies and hopes and dreams. And yes, you can do that, but at the same time, if you don't think and feel that, that isn't unnormal. It's not unheard of, and don't be too hard on
Yeah.
yourself. It's an emotional roller coaster. A lot of it. There's a lot of highs. There's a few lows, but there's mostly highs. But at the same time, I think the parent guilt is real, and that parent guilt
All
starts quite early
consuming.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, all consuming, and it can start quite early on through your adoption process because depending on what the age of the child or children you're getting, you're going to have to be a parent hitting that ground running.
Mm.
So don't be hard on the fact that that parent guilt and that parent worry and the parent fear and all the things that you feel like becoming a parent are there because I think, being honest, there's times when I sat there thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do
Yeah.
this. I know what can I do this? Is this the right thing for us to do? And you know, and there's times when we talk about certain situations and our perspectives are completely different. And then you talk to other people, they're like, "Oh yeah, we had the same." Oh,
Oh,
okay. Like
yeah.
this is not about being adopted or go through the adoption process or having adopted children or adopted child. This is just about being a parent, you know, and so don't try and misconstrue the feelings that you feel like becoming a parent, the feeling of going for the adoption, and I think those two can get blurred. But yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. There's things that I've done that I've enjoyed, but this is the best thing I've ever done. And if I can make somebody think and feel how I think and feel about my children, and just share that with them for a little bit, I think most people would jump at the chance to kind of think and feel how I do.
A huge thank you to Miles for his honesty and openness in that chat. It was incredibly powerful for me, and I hope it was for those of you listening. I hope you feel empowered after listening to Miles to know that there's so much you can bring to being an adoptive parent from your own lived experiences. Thank you for listening.